Amazon is the greatest company on the planet for software engineers. There's always other companies that pay more. The grass is always greener on the other side. Yes, it is greener. Ever since I posted a video about why I left Amazon, and to be fair, I emphasized both personal reasons and company reasons, where the company reasons are mostly around the 4-year cliff. It goes with us. Regardless which company we go, it happens. Still, quite some negative comments showed up. Come on, I know, you don't believe Amazon is the greatest company, do you? That's why I wish you can sit tight. For the next 10 minutes or so, let's talk about it. Before we dive into Amazon, let me start with a simple question. How much is your TC? Comment below, show it off, let me know. If you look up online for Amazon, the average first year total compensation for a new grad is about 165,000 US dollars. But let's take a step back. For someone who is a software engineer or wants to be a software engineer, and you don't know the concept of TC, you are in your comfort zone. Come on, man. Get alive. Get some bleep. In our community, where a bunch of wild software engineers live, TC is the most powerful weapon you can possibly imagine. You don't believe so? Again? Well, how about these scenarios? I'm sure you've had arguments with people before. For example, if some car behind you rushed you somehow, don't be violent. Just drive over and ask, what's your TC? You will strike the other driver by surprise, right into his heart. In the split of a second, you win. Just drive, go. Maybe your family, your remote relatives ask you why you're not married at 30. Why don't you have kids at 30? Why do you spend so much money on traveling than saving? Don't be rude. Just stop by, be gentle and ask, what's your TC? Once again, you will strike them by surprise, right into their hearts. You win. Maybe you meet someone on a dating app, but the other person judges your introverted personality or your oversimplified outfit. Don't walk away. Just be nice and ask, what's your TC? Alright, you will strike the other person by surprise, right into their heart. You win again. Don't actually do this, especially on a date. You just can't trade true love with TC. Alright, you just can't. In fact, you get the idea that these are all jokes, right? I'm listing these examples just to make a point, even though we don't ask people about their TC in real life, face to face. But we often justify or judge our own lives by how much TC we make. TC is especially relevant to the average working people like us. It's not a shame to chase after it. Lots of our sufferings and efforts resulted into this simple phrase, the total compensation, the TC. Alright, if you're like me who stayed at Amazon, or if you are still at Amazon, I think you tend to agree with me. Being a software engineer at Amazon brings you a ton of TC, and that's a change of life for a lot of people. But we know other companies that pays more than Amazon. There's always other companies that pay more. The grass is always greener on the other side. Yes, it is greener. I'm not going to argue. The offers from other companies are ridiculously delicious, even just by thinking about it, right? But when reality hits, think deeper. How many engineering positions are there in those companies where you get much higher TC from? Are you qualified? Are you good with lead code? Are you competing with a bunch of experienced engineers who are also looking for these super high TC offers from these other companies? You have to try them out, obviously. Go, interview. But also, you have to accept a fair expectation that you may fail. This is only my personal perspective that Amazon offers the most engineering positions across all these tech companies. That means a tremendous amount of opportunities. We have seen Amazon growing as a company for the past 20 years, right? Who do you think that built all these services? Amazon employees. Of course, they're not all engineers, but to our topics today, engineers did play a big role in these products and developments. That is why Amazon needs a ton of engineers to keep the momentum. I've said in a previous video, for a company large like Amazon, we are more or less just a tiny piece of a giant machine. Yes, you are just a nail. But Amazon do need engineers to keep the machine going, make it better, and scale. It's true that you can get higher TC elsewhere. But for a new grad like us, without too much leverage on our hands, are we just going to sit and interview forever until we get into our other dream companies? No, I couldn't do that. Maybe you can, but I cannot. If we don't work for a couple of months, that shovels a hole in the ground for our young resume. Therefore, I think it's fair to say that take Amazon as a great company to train as an engineer. Staying or leaving is up to the individual, but coming to Amazon is definitely a solid choice for engineers. This type of mindset is fairly common and relevant. In our parents' generation, lots of families cannot send their kids to private schools, or they cannot afford the best college. I personally am, and I know a lot of engineers from average families. This profession and this very job as a software engineer at Amazon gave them the opportunity to step into a much bigger career. Once again, Amazon offers the most amount of opportunities to do so. Alright, Amazon, a fairly good company for engineers. Now we're more or less on the same page, right? What do we learn from Amazon as an engineer? I got Amazon.com bug reports from friends all the time. For example, hey, this web page does not load. Hey, my checkout didn't work. And hey, why does it show a dog on my web page? What's going on? No, I didn't work for Amazon Retail. I certainly have no idea how Amazon.com works, but I can say two things that I learned as an engineer at Amazon. We all started writing code for a certain part of a system, right? For any project or company. Let's say we're building a web application. Sometimes we start working on a web page. Maybe the UI framework is already set, so all we're doing is just to replace a string or two. And sometimes the website is hosted on one machine, and we just have to scale it. Just like that, as an engineer, many times we work on just one piece of the entire pipeline. Fortunately and unfortunately, we have to treat other parts of the pipeline as a black box. Oftentimes, we're privileged to have existing services to solve the common problems. Amazon engineering structure keeps the projects segregated as individual microservices. And those microservices are owned by individual teams. Fun fact, microservice is a common practice. It's very well known now. But the popularity of microservices came from Amazon. When I say services, obviously, they are very high level. So there isn't many wheels being reinvented at the base level. I hope this ownership architecture really forces people to think about how much traffic is coming to my services, how much capacity should I request, how to build the APIs so it's easy to maintain and scale it, how to monitor our system from end to end, how to fix the system when things go south. This type of mindset training is invaluable, that nothing is given. You'd have to, at least at high level, care about the system design, understand the design pattern, and propose sustainable architecture. To wrap this up, from the engineering architecture perspective, Amazon is a wonderful battleground for new and young engineers. Okay, I want to step aside and talk about something that's not engineering specific, but has a tremendous influence on my career. Some of you know this by heart. Amazon lives on paper. The most common question you will get asked at Amazon, regardless if you are a software engineer, do you have a doc? I admit, it's super odd for new Amazon engineers that you have to write a document for, you just can't run away from all these. Design review, you write a tech design doc. Road mapping, the OP1, you write a planning doc. A brown bag, you provide a doc. You write documents for almost everything, discussion, decision, all kinds of things. When I first started at Amazon, I got comments and feedbacks on my document, not specifically about engineering details. It goes like, hey, this paragraph should be higher priority. Can you move this paragraph up to the top? I'm like, okay, what? This internal culture is not often discussed or mentioned externally. But believe it or not, this actually has a tremendous impact on my career. To me, writing a document is the best way to streamline my thoughts, and reading a doc is the best way to understand the other person's carefully articulated thoughts. You are watching my video to this point, so yes, everything I said was on a doc. I wrote a doc. Obviously, it's time-consuming at first, but just imagine how simple it is when you get asked about a question on the project you launched maybe 6 months ago, about a decision and the why and when the decision was landed. What do? Share the doc. Share the decision made at the time and also the reasons behind it, because it's all written and discussed. The documentation will save you a bunch of time down the road. Having a concise and clear doc, sometimes it's just beautiful. The process of writing a document also saved me many times. For example, a bunch of engineers reached the decision A, B, and C after a technical discussion. One person started drafting the doc, trying to summarize things, and realized, hey, something is off. We found the problem, let's resolve it. A new set of decisions are made. The correct set of decisions are now made. Think about if the documentation does not exist. All the excellent engineers have to memorize their domain knowledge, their design in their mind. And new engineers has to read through thousands of lines of code to understand, to catch up what's going on. And this is just not scalable. And also, this is my personal opinion. I think Amazon documentation culture pushes developers into engineers. Alright, let's face it, there are lots of hate of Amazon. Lots of people speak poorly of working at Amazon. But to be fair, there are lots of people speaking poorly of any companies. Anyways, I'm not making this video to say Amazon is flawless, it's perfect. On the other hand, being one of the greatest company on the planet does not mean the company is perfect. I do want to shine some light on my positive experience at Amazon. There is fear and myths about Amazon in the engineering community, even before I joined Amazon, right? About PIP, about work-life balance, and I was terrified as well. And yet, years later, there are still a ton of misconceptions of Amazon. I just want to say that I survived Amazon in one piece. I survived just fine. I think you may as well. Oftentimes, people with positive experiences at Amazon are silent. There is no urge or reason to speak up about how great or bad the company is, when everything is just normal for you. Unless you had a bad experience before joining Amazon, then you will consider Amazon as amazing. Or if you looked over, you have seen the greener grass on the other side, then yeah, you may consider Amazon as it's inevitable to look at criticisms when looking or comparing companies, especially for Amazon. Man, the very company itself, Amazon, introduced the concept of review mechanism. Yeah, 5 stars, please. The reviews may not be balanced. That's why I'd like to say something positive about my experience and share my appreciation of my previous company. In a previous video, I shared why I left Amazon. I don't regret it. It was a simple decision at my 4-year mark. Questions: if you worked at Amazon, how was your experience? If you are at Amazon, how is the engineering culture? How is the documentation culture? Is everything still the same? If you are at the moment debating the offer from Amazon and other companies, what's your struggle? Let me know your thoughts down below in the comments. Last question: how do you like today's video? If you enjoyed the video and want to see more content like this, please like, comment, and share. And don't forget to subscribe. Alright, I will see you next time.